Hello, everyone. In this episode of Director Discussions, I cannot believe this. This is without a doubt one of the biggest chats I've ever gotten to do. I'm fortunate enough to sit down with one, in my opinion, one of the greatest filmmakers to ever live, the amazing John Waters. Sir, thank you so much for taking the time to come on. How are you doing today?
Thank you for doing it. And you wrote a really good letter. It should be an assignment for school to write a letter somewhere that the person actually gets it and write such a good letter that they answer and agree to do with it. I did that when I was your age. I wrote to Russ Meyer and he wrote me back.
I cannot believe my message got through to you. I mean, I send so much messages, and I remember I was coming back from school on the train, and I opened my email, and it was like John Waters agreed to do an interview, and I almost lost my breath. And a filmmaker like you is willing to take the time to chat someone with someone like me means more than words can say, sir. So thank you so much.
Are you kidding? My younger fans are the ones that are the most important because you weren't even born when I made my last movie, probably. So that's thrilling to me because you all are having just as much fun as we have. I hate when people my age say, "Oh, they aren't having as much fun." Yes, you are. You're having just as much fun, and there's a new sexual revolution. There's a new way to get on people's nerves. You're thinking it up. That you're doing your duty.
Oh, sir, I hope one day I'm half the dirty man you are, and I mean that, sir, from the bottom of my heart. So, so many different places to begin. First things first, we talked a little bit about what you were like when you were my age. You know, you talked about sending messages to people. So I'd love to ask you, what was your cinematic experience like at 16? Do you remember the type of filmmakers or films that would have been coming out when you were my age and things you were
Yeah,
inspired by?
I was reading about underground movies and running away to New York from Baltimore on the Greyhound bus and going to see Kenneth Anger's movies and Flaming Creatures and early Warhol movies just when I was a kid. And I made my first movie when I was 16, and it was called Hag in a Black Leather Jacket. I didn't even know what editing was. I just shot the shots in order in the camera, and that was the movie. And it played once in a beatnik coffee house, but we got it covered in the paper, and that was the beginning. You learn from doing it. I think Cecil B Demented says technique is nothing more than failed style. You don't have to know what you're doing. You just have to have good people in it and a good idea.
Yeah. And so many filmmakers talk about coming from a place of instinct. Paul Thomas Anderson, when he was making Boogie Nights, he was coming from a place of instinct. And filmmakers also talk about how, as it goes on, it becomes less instinct and more becomes knowledge of how to make a film. You know you know what coverage is. You know you should shoot this in a wide. Do you feel like at the start of your career you were just operating from a place of pure instinct and just someone who loved films?
Yes, and I didn't know what I was doing. The only people that taught me were Teamster types that would illegally rent me the equipment that they would sneak out of television stations. And these were people that you would think might have been horrified at the movies, like multiple maniacs, and the guy there taught me everything. He was there. Now, I don't know. I paid him for that equipment. I'm not sure he got that equipment out of the TV station legitimately, but I didn't ask. Don't ask, don't. In those days, it was don't ask, don't tell where your equipment came from.
It could have fallen off the back of a truck for all you know, but as long as you got the
Exactly. And the film lab guy taught me everything. And he used to sometimes have big signs in the window of his lab saying bomb Hanoi and stuff. So he was definitely not a hippie. And we were hippies wanting to be punks. And there was no such word as punk then. But I was a beatnik. There wasn't even the word hippie when I started. So I think Hag in a Black Leather Jacket was probably post beatnik before hippie.
wow. That's fascinating. And I saw you mentioned in an interview that with each film in a way, you were constantly trying to reinvent yourself. You know, after Pink Flamingos, it was like after that, what can you do to surprise an audience and disgust them more than what already happened in that film?
Well, I
So
didn't try to. I didn't try to. I knew that. I had won. I still won. There's still nothing more hideous in a movie that makes people laugh and delights them. I mean, Johnny Knoxville would have done it if I hadn't.
exactly. And I think that's why, in a weird way, I think there's a lot of similarities between Jackass and your work that maybe people
Oh,
aren't
me
aware of.
too. Me too. I
Wow.
think Jackass is a great movie. And he brought together, I saw it in Baltimore with like blue collar straight boys with their fathers cheering on footage of people shoving toy cars up their ass. And I thought, how did how did he bring this together? And it works and it's packed. It made money too. So I give Johnny great credit, and he's my friend, and he also was in A Dirty Shame. I think he's a really good actor too.
Yeah. Oh, that is so hilarious. But I mean, it also is that kind of idea of reinvention. Did you find yourself with each new film trying to reinvent yourself?
Well, I tried to not give exactly what people would expect, except all my movies are the same. I think they all have the same messages: don't judge other people and turn what society uses against you into a style and win. All my movies really are about that. But Hairspray, when it came out and got a PG rating, that was the most shocking thing I could do at the time, because people
Really?
knew Divine for, NC-7, well, it was not even NC-17 there, it was called X. And when then Divine suddenly played a frumpy alcoholic housewife, it got all great reviews. So yes, when you do the opposite of what they expect, it usually works. I always said if Dolly Parton got out of drag and played a junkie, she'd win the Oscar.
Wow. I mean, that is amazing, but I think there is something so, I think, amazing about being able to reinvent yourself. And I remember I was talking to a filmmaker and they talked about how, in a way, they're trying to go into each film as a beginner. Would you agree with that? Do you feel like you're trying to go into each of the films you've made as a beginner? And I know you're going to start production on your next film. Are you trying to go
No,
in
well,
as a...
wait a minute. I'm not. That was erroneous in the press. That I don't have the green light to make the next movie. I hope it comes true, but we do not have that.
Oh,
That was
really?
completely. I had to deny it in the press. That was a week of nightmares. But anyway, each time I am a beginner, yeah, because each time maybe I made a musical, I'd never done that, or I made a action movie, or I made a bigger budget movie, or I made with movie stars, and each time it is a different subject, but I'm always satirizing a certain genre. I mean,
Yeah.
Hairspray was a dance movie. Crybaby was a musical. Serial Mom was a true crime. Cecil B Demented, a political movie. Pecker, an art film. Dirty Shame, a sexploitation film. So I'm always respecting and parroting a genre, I think. And I made my own genre, which was exploitation films for art theaters.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'd love to ask, when you were doing those films, I think now film is something that's so accessible. You could open up your TV and watch 2000 films. You literally have a grand selection. But, I'm sure back when you were growing up, if you want to see films like that, you'd have to go to an underground cinema. Because at the time you were kind of depicting things that you wouldn't see in everyday cinema, did that come with a sense of freedom? Or did you feel like there's actually a sense of pressure because you don't know how people are going to react to these films? Or what was that
Well,
process?
what exploitation cinema was, and Herschel Gordon Lewis said this, is you give them the things that Hollywood movies cannot or will not. But
Wow.
now there's hardcore porn in Hollywood movies. There's complete violence and gore in Hollywood movies. So I always say your duty, your age, is to make an NC-17 movie with no sex or violence. What could that be?
Wow. Yeah.
That's your challenge.
Well, I mean, John Waters has literally told me to do it, so I feel like if anyone can bestow that challenge upon me, it is you.
That's
So,
you. You better come up with it. That's your assignment.
oh God, is that my homework from this
That
interview?
is your filth term paper.
Well, you have my word. I'll give it a shot. But yeah, I think it is fascinating seeing how it is changed. I mean, you just talk about it there. What's NC-17 now is completely different than what would have been NC-17 now. So, what's it been like for you to actually witness this change? Because I know when you were growing up, Lenny Bruce, you mentioned in an interview, Lenny Bruce went to jail just for saying the word fuck.
No,
So,
he said cocksucker in San
oh,
Francisco. Nowadays, the police in San Francisco would say cocksucking is a good thing.
um, but yeah, so cinema has
In
changed. Like,
political correctness, I used to fear the right. Now I fear the left.
really,
Well,
really.
they're the new censors. And I just don't, I believe in most, I'm a left wing, God knows I'm a bleeding liberal, but I think I'm a middle of the road radical now, because the self-righteousness of the left and the closed mindedness of the right both turn me off. So I've
Wow.
never been in the middle before. So finally I am. So now I'm an insider trying to cause trouble, no more an outsider.
I'm glad you finally found your place in the universe after all this time. It's
Yes, it
amazing.
took a while. Yes. Right
But,
in the Academy Award Museum where I belong.
but what's it been like for you to see this shift in what's considered acceptable in cinema? What's it been like for you?
I say I'm so respectable I could puke. It's been astounding. It really astonishing, I think, would be the most amazing words to see how a movie that I made like Pink Flamingos that was banned everywhere. I never won an obscenity case. I lost every time. Was last year picked to be on by the National Registry as a Great American Film. It showed uncut with full blowjobs in it on Turner Classics. How could that possibly be? And they said in the brochure, "Fat woman lives in trailer." That's my favorite description of the entire movie ever. And you know, you're not allowed to say fat anymore. You can say fuck on national television, but you can't say fat on PBS.
Man, that's unreal. And you brought up that point there. Didn't you used to take negative reviews and use them to promote the films you were
Well,
making?
that's the only thing we had. Yeah, Pink Flamingos was all negative reviews, the whole poster. But in those days, the critics were much more, they were dumb. They gave me what I wanted. They would say things like a septic tank explosion, it must be seen to be believed. You can't get any better than that.
I'd say it was your dream hearing all this.
Yeah, but today that wouldn't work. The critics have not so much power anymore, but they also are not that stupid. They wouldn't give me that. They would say it was boring or middle. They would know how to insult me. But by saying those kind of reviews at the time only helped, and the audience roared with laughter every time they'd read them.
Wow. That's absolutely brilliant. That's phenomenal. I love your kind of approach to making these. But when you were making film, did you ever worry about what critics were going to think or how people were going to receive it, or were you just making films for John Waters?
Well, I made it for what my friends would think were funny. That's always been my audience. But I read I always read the press. I got Variety when I was 14 years old. I knew the business. I knew how it worked. I knew what distribution was. I distributed them myself for a while. I went around the country with prints in my car, with posters, and would talk a theater into let me have a midnight show. And I learned how to do it. So, and I always wanted them to make money. You know, they always had an audience. I never had an empty theater when I would go in a like two midnight shows and some theater. Once there was the theater only had inner tubes that people sat on. There were no seats. It was a different world then. And
Wow.
but yes, I learned distribution. You have to learn the business too if you want to get into. You have to participate. If you want to be a filmmaker, go see every movie. Just watch them with the sound off. You can tell how they're made. Sound just disguises everything. You know, see if you want to be in, go to every art gallery if you want to be an artist. Find the gallery that shows stuff that you like. You can't just sit home and think somebody's going to come knock on your door. You or everybody wants to be. I think secretly everybody wants to be in show business, but mostly the people that succeed are the most insecure ones because for the rest of their life they want strangers to tell them they're good.
Wow. That's amazing. And I think a lot of filmmaking is kind of looking for connection in a lot of ways. You're trying to build empathy. I think films are an act of building empathy. Whether or not you know it, the film that you love the most is the film you connected with the most. At least that's kind of the way I look at it. And there is something I think so human and honest about each of your films. And there are so many great messages. Do you feel like sometimes people, get so wrapped up in how kind of shocking or large they can sometimes be and forget to see the message? Or do you feel like people have always
I
interpreted
don't
your
know.
film?
There's a message basically. If you don't make your enemy feel stupid, you make them laugh. They'll stop and listen, and maybe they'll change their mind. You don't
Wow.
change people's mind by saying they're dumb, even when they are. You have to pretend you think they're smart so they'll listen.
That's amazing. And I think a point there, even when Hairspray came out, you were saying that racists actually enjoyed the film.
Yeah, they did. They liked the music, and they were too dumb even to know. I thought you're racist. How come you like all black music? That was amazing to me that they could be that stupid. But so the music lured them in. Maybe they're open to a different idea. Just the music snuck in, or something sneaks them in. Hairspray is done in grade schools everywhere, all over the country, including Florida. And I've never had any hassle about anything with drag queens, interracial, nothing because they don't know how to attack it because it's a sneak attack. Tracy Turnblad doesn't think her mother's trans. That's a secret between the actors and the audience that they delightfully share. The characters don't know that, so they
Wow.
don't know how to fight it.
Yeah, and so did you know that that would be your most commercial film? Because my friend Luke, who edits my YouTube videos, is doing a production of Hairspray this month with his school. So it's
What's he
amazing that
playing?
I don't know. I think he's working backstage.
Uh-huh.
He's slacking on it. I should get him up there in the front. I want to see him in a dress. I'll get that sorted. Don't you worry.
Well, or yeah, just don't put a fat suit. A fat suit is kind of blackface for fat girls, I think.
Why, really?
Well, there's a lot of fat girls in America. Are you kidding? Why would you hire a skinny one and put a fat suit on?
That's an absolutely valid point, and I'm in no position to argue with that. But did you think Hairspray would be your most commercially popular film?
I didn't when I wrote it, and I didn't think, oh, this is going to be the one. No, I didn't do that. And I was shocked when it got the PG rating. I just figured anything I did, they'd give me trouble, but they didn't. And it was the correct rating, certainly. Um, and then New Line said, well, maybe they got nervous. They said, put in the word shit so it at least gets a PG-13. I said, no, the shock will be that it got a PG. Nobody will know what to do. And that was the correct decision, I think.
Wow. And what was it like for you when you heard it was going to be PG? Were you like, what?
What did I do wrong? I thought my career was over. Oh, I'm going to be tarred and feathered. We're going to have to play children's matinees instead of midnight.
Is that why you ended up doing Alvin and the Chipmunks? Because you love
Oh,
that
I
bit?
always wanted to be Alvin. I'm in the new Chucky TV show too. I'm in the finale. I like to do genre pictures, and I like, there different people recognize me. When I'm on the subway in New York, I only just get recognized for being in Chucky. And in
Really?
airports, children come over to me and say, "Pick me up." And look at me. I can't pick you up because 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 they saw me in Alvin the Chipmunk. So I like to spread the audience around.
What was it like to work with Alvin? Was he good? What was it like just to sit
Well,
in front?
Alvin, they put him in afterwards. The whole plane was set. What was most amazing in the scene I'm doing with Alvin, uh, they put in different dialogue after we shot it, where Alvin says to me, "I saw Pink Flamingos," and I thought, "What? They put that in the they did when I shot it, that wasn't the line." But I
Really?
thought they did it just for a joke for the parents, I guess. It was a big budget, complicated. But when you talk to Alvin, it's just a little doll. They put him in afterwards, but they do many, many lighting tests because all the reflections have to be the same. But
Wow.
Chucky, when I was in seat of Chucky, when you do the shot, Chucky is moving and walking and talking to you. They work it all from under the floors. So
Amazing.
Chucky, yeah, but the newer one, I was in a scene with Chucky, but I think they put him afterwards. But yeah, so Alvin and Chucky, that would be a good battle scene. Like, the
Yeah.
two of them meet.
Oh, Alvin will pull a trick. Does Alvin have Theodore and Simon with him? Does he have the other chipmunks?
No,
Or
he could be by himself just with Chucky, and they're both old. They're both in their 35, so maybe they could fall in love.
is that a film you'd like to make? Alvin and Chucky?
Sure, Alvin, the gay. Well, no, the Chucky TV show is already a little gay, but Alvin and Chucky become a couple and run off to kill Gorgo.
I think there's something so beautiful and honest about that. I think you're the guy to do it. But you'd have to do it all practically. You really need to get like you'd really need to find someone who embodies Alvin and then get him to play Alvin throughout the whole
Or a
film.
real person is Alvin rather than a cartoon, right? Right.
Exactly, yeah.
But in a bad outfit, not like CGI, none of that. Like,
Yeah. If you give
even
me give me two years, I'll go to the gym. I'll really get into Alvin shape, and we'll get it
why
going.
do you think Alvin's a muscle man?
I feel like it works for his character.
Alvin, I don't know. Yeah, I guess he's not a nerd. I think he'd be skinny kind of though.
Really? But he'd have
Maybe
to
a hipster,
survive.
more of a hipster, I think, than a muscle Mary.
He's an animal though, so would he not have to be a bit feral and find his way through?
Maybe, but he's gone Hollywood a long time ago. Believe me, he has a star on Hollywood Boulevard just like I do.
Yeah. What was that like for you to get a star in Hollywood Boulevard? Was sure.
I'm right next to Roy Rogers. Who would have ever thought that would happen?
I'd say was that the same feeling when Hairspray was PG? Were you like, what? Was that a bit of a shock for
And
you?
I'm always saying what, it seems my whole career, like when Hairspray became a giant hit musical and won the Tony Award, I was like, what? Uh, all exciting, all great. It's just it's thrilling. And even when things went bad in Hollywood, I learned how to do it and I negotiated. And when I wrote Mr. Know-It-All, my book about Hollywood, I didn't say anything negative about any of the executives. And if I did, I didn't name them because they gave me the money. I didn't give them the money back.
Yeah. I mean, wow, that is, I think, about, and like, not that you care what I think, but I think you absolutely deserve all the success you've gotten,
Oh,
and
that's very sweet. Thank
yeah,
you.
sir, you absolutely do deserve it. But like, was it hard for you, because Hairspray and I think in Crybaby, I still like they are very John Waters films, but when you were doing something like Hairspray, after that, were you thinking, I can't go back to making films like Pink Flamingos because of a whole new audience, or were you still
Well, I
open?
did though. I mean, A Dirty
Exactly, yeah.
Shame was NC-17. It was about sex addicts. Cecil B Demented was about terrorist filmmakers. So I did go back. Crybaby, I went. which I did next, was a big Hollywood picture, was a failure when it came out. And Johnny Depp was a huge star. Johnny Depp was like Justin Bieber at the time. And
Wow.
and it did not do well. It's loved now by a lot of people, but when it first came out, it didn't.
Wow, that's fascinating. I didn't know that. I would have assumed
Yeah.
that film would have done well. That's
No, and
amazing.
Serial Mom's my best movie, I think. And I think that's the one where I had the biggest budget. I had it was my real Hollywood movie, but it still is just as crazy as all my movies, I think. And
What's it like? Can you watch your films? Can you watch the films that you've made
can
or
I? Yeah, I don't kill myself, but I don't. I mean, do you think I just go, oh, tonight maybe I'll go watch one of my movies? No, I never do that. But I'm appearing tomorrow night at a film festival where I talk through Hairspray and I commentary all through it. So when I see that kind of thing, I do it, and I like to see it in foreign countries. The most I like to see, even though I hate dubbing, I'm always amazed when I do see it dubbed, that someone is trying to does the voices. It's always in Italy. They dub everything still.
really?
Oh, and they changed the worst titles. Hairspray was Fat is Beautiful.
Thank
I
you.
know. Try singing that. Yeah.
That's amazing. Wow. So. What's it been like for you to see internationally how your films have been received? Because your films have touched pockets of the world. I'd say you never even expected they would. Is it a bit gratifying when you're in a place like Italy and hundreds of people
Yeah.
show up to
I
watch one of
did
your
this
films?
year. I did Greece. I did Budapest. How do you know who I am? It's amazing to me.
Yeah,
And I was in Poland this year, and this old man stood up in the audience. I've told this story before, but he looked like a Khrushchev, an old communist, right? And
yeah.
he said, I just want to tell you, when it was communist here, we got a fake copy, a pirate copy of Crybaby. And when we watched it, when I saw Willem Dafoe slap Johnny Depp on the ass, I knew I was gay. And the audience went crazy because it was the last thing anybody expected he was going to say. He looked like Nikita Khrushchev. It was so funny. So I'm always amazed that it gets around the world. I'm always amazed. How do you even know what this is? It's really astonishing. That's what astonishing is the best word I can think to describe what has happened to my career and my life. And I, with no irony in any way.
Because I'm sure you never expected. Because I think creating something a lot of times can be a lonely experience when you're
No, I
writing.
was never lonely with that. And I did not expect it. I wanted it. I knew about it. I
Yeah,
knew about film festivals. I read Variety every week. I knew what I wanted to do. It was just, how am I going to get there from Lutherville, Maryland? But
and that,
everybody does that.
and
Everybody has to get out from where they were and start. Now
and
you
what?
don't have to leave because of the internet. I mean, you don't have to go anywhere. You can just never leave your house and have a career.
Yeah, film has changed so much. Do you feel like if you were my age now, young John Waters, the way the films you would have made and the way you would have made films would have just been totally different?
Well, I would have come up with a new way because I would have been younger from many different generations, but I would have still found a way to make fun of probably political correctness and whatever is the judge is the rules of rebels. That's what I always made fun. Multiple Maniacs was a film that made fun of hippies, but the audience was hippies. We were hippies. So at
Yeah,
the same time, that's the key is I make fun of myself first and make fun of things I love, and then nobody gets mad because it's not mean.
yeah. And what is it about satire that appeals to you as an artist and as a person?
About what?
Satire.
Oh, satire. Well, I like humor. I like just making fun of things in a good way is all humor is dangerous. All humor is political. You're always walking on that cliff where you could fall off, and that's what Lenny Bruce started that. They all comedians do that. They want to see how far they can go because people come. It's odd. My friend Pat Moran said, "Who would pay to go somewhere to laugh?" And
Yeah.
that is true. But still, I think that is what people are paying. So they want you to make them feel good and laugh at something that maybe they feel bad about.
Wow, yeah. And I think so much of your films really do embody that. So much of your films, do you feel like it's the way you were raised in the community? Because I mean, Baltimore is something so integral in each of your films. So I kind of find myself thinking, imagine if you were born in somewhere like Ireland or New York. Do you really feel like, in a way, you were just inspired by your culture and the people around you while you were making your films?
Well, I grew up in a very upper middle class home that I was the tyranny of good taste I was raised in. But if I hadn't learned those rules, I couldn't have broken them with humor. So, and my parents were horrified by what I did, but supportive, which I look back how loving that was. That was horrifying. Nobody said those movies were good in the beginning. I got all terrible reviews. I got arrested for making them and everything. So my parents were totally confused. They never asked me if I was gay. They thought it was something worse.
Wow. That's wow. And so what advice would you have for anyone looking to become a filmmaker in the modern age?
Well, write what you know, get your friends together, make it short. Don't make a long comedy. It's never funny. But just do it. Nobody's going to come the first one. You got to go out there and do it. Shoot it guerrilla style. Run. When the police come, run. You don't need permits, any of that stuff in the beginning. Just make it. Do it. Do it. Just do it.
That's some absolutely amazing advice from John Waters. And were you actually arrested for some of your films?
Oh yeah, for a conspiracy to commit indecent exposure and Mondo Trash Show. Then the films got multiple Maniacs. Once I sent it to Canada to screen, and it had to go through customs, and I didn't hear, and I didn't hear, and I wrote them. They just sent me a receipt that said destroyed. They just burned the print. I thought, well, that's real censorship. And then yeah, I got found guilty for obscenity lots of times. If you see Pink Flamingos at midnight in a theater, it's joyous. Try watching it at jury duty at 8 in the morning with strangers, watching the singing asshole. It is obscene.
Try watching at 8 in the morning at jury duty. That might be quote of this interview. Sir, my last and final question for you. What does cinema mean to you?
Cinema means to me a way to tell stories. And I love my friend Pat also. Her mother always used to say, why do you go to the movies? Who wants to sit in the dark with a bunch of strangers and waste an outfit? I love that quote. But I'm the opposite. I want to go sit in a dark room with strangers and listen to a story and have me sucked into that story. And I have always been a storyteller from the days I was a puppeteer when I was 12 years old, right up to today, talking to you.
I mean, sir, yeah, you put it amazingly there. And I cannot believe that the John Waters, one of my heroes who has done so much at one point in his life, took the time to chat with little old me. It genuinely means the world that he took the time to sit down with me. Like to me, cinema means everything. Both my parents are deaf. I think I mentioned
Oh,
this in
yeah.
my initial message. So growing up, we could all connect over cinema. So the fact I get to sit down with someone like you, whose films inspire me beyond words, means more than words can say, sir. So I wanted to
Hey, let me tell you one
thank you.
thing. Do you know the biggest punk rock club in San Francisco was called the Deaf Club, and it was because all deaf people lived there. They didn't complain about the noise, but they could hear the beat. So there's a big documentary being made about it right now, the Deaf Club. So you would go there, and it was really scary punks and all deaf people that were like pogo dancing wildly because they could hear the beat. It was so good.
Yeah, wow. I'm gonna have to check that out. That
Yeah.
sounds absolutely brilliant. But like, see, this is what I'm saying. You're an absolute, vessel of stories. So I'm so grateful you took the time to share some of your stories with me. I hope I'm half the man and half the filmmaker and half the filth you are one day, sir. So
All
thank you
right.
so
Well,
much.
thank you. And I'll be keeping my eye on you. All right. And knock them dead. Okay.
N17, first N17 film with no nudity. Was that what was put down on me?
And no nudity or violence either.
No nudity. All right. No nudity of violence. I'll put the thinking cap on, sir. Before we finish up, is there anything you can promote or anything you want people to go check out? You have a
No, I
website.
just want all the people listening to you to get your film made. That's what I care about today. All right.
Oh, sir, that means everything. Thank you so much. And again, from the bottom of my heart, like I was shaking before I came onto this call, but you could not have been kinder. It means everything to me that I got to chat with you. And I hope you know you deserve every ounce of success that comes your way. Thank you from
Thank
the
you
bottom
so
of my heart.
much.
And thank
All
you guys
right.
so much for watching. This has been my interview with the amazing John Waters.